Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Can of Corn podcast. Today we're going to be going over our starting rotation and pen rankings, and these were done prior to the season starting. So if somebody had a bad start here and there, that's not included in our ranking process. We're going to be going over some just general stuff regarding the beginning of the regular season, who's hot, who's not, all that kind of stuff. We're going to be introducing the first Philly Friday, which will be a separate episode, and we'll get into that later. And yeah, Dylan, you want to take us away?
Yeah, absolutely. As always, before we get into it, we appreciate all of our viewers and listeners out there. We've been doing this for almost 3 months, and we just enjoy having people along for the journey. And stay tuned; we got some good stuff coming out now that the season's underway.
Yep, there is. And we did have some questions come in from our story post today, so I will get to those later too.
Awesome. Let's crack open this can of corn. So we're gonna start out with our honorable mentions. Now I know a lot of some people's understanding of starting pitching is more so that the starting pitchers themselves are what make a team good. But I personally have the viewpoint that you could have the best pitcher in the league on one of the worst rotation units as like in the league, and it's not going to make much of a difference. I think it's really important to have an entire starting rotation unit that's good, and that's kind of what we put into these rankings. So first up on our honorable mentions, we have the Atlanta Braves. Um, you know, you got Spencer Strider leading that rotation, who's just utterly nasty. Um,
Spencer Strider is one of the league's most dominant pitchers. He has arguably the best thighs in the league, and he's the reason why the Atlanta Braves were almost number 5. The back end of their rotation is kind of what drops them out of the run because they do have him, who is an absolute stud, and then we kind of see a fall off in their 3 and 4 guy, who I can't even think of off the top of my head right now. Actually,
yeah. So their 5-man rotation right now is Strider, followed by Max Fried, who is a very good number 2. He has a lot of high end going into this season. It is his walk year, so we'll see if he can pitch himself into a big contract. I think he's more than capable of that. It's more so a matter of health, if he can stay on the field. Their 3 is slated to be Chris Sale, who,
dog.
Yeah, in years past was absolutely disgusting. And I know we did these rankings, ahead of the time, but in or prior, but in spring and his first outing of the season, he looked nails. So that's scary. Then they go into Charlie Morton, who is the oldest man in their rotation. He's 40 this year, but he's all reliable. He's gonna give you innings when he's available, and he has a few blow up starts here and there, but for the most part, he's exactly what you're looking for from a 4. And then their 5th starter is slated to be Ronaldo Lopez, who pitched a lot in the pen last year, and it is kind of going to be doing the same role that Strom had to start last season. He's going to open games while some of their minor league guys develop, and once they have someone they feel comfortable adding to that rotation, he's more than likely just going to go back into the pen.
Yeah, and I want to add that talent-wise, the Atlanta Braves are in my top 5, but health keeps them out of it. Chris Sale has not finished a full season in 3 years?
Yes. And I don't think he's had a full healthy season since 2018 when he was with the Red Sox and they won the World Series.
Right. And I mean, listen, his stuff's disgusting. He is probably, junk-wise, probably one of the best pitchers that I've ever seen. But when you can't stay on the field and you have 2 guys who you really have 3, really, the Atlanta Braves have 3 pitchers in their starting rotation that they have to worry about health for now. And that's gonna hurt them pretty big.
Yeah, it's a big gamble on their part if all these guys can stay healthy. That's definitely a rotation that scares you going into the playoffs when you have to face them, but we'll have to see if they can keep it together.
At first, Dylan, you want to move us along to the Minnesota Twins?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Minnesota Twins are headed by my Cy Young pick, Pablo Lopez. Absolutely nasty stuff. Just great, great frontline pitcher. Followed by Joe Ryan, who is a younger guy, kind of really broke out in 2022 and has had a good track record. Maybe in terms of some other rankings, he's relatively low for a two, but I think this entire rotation, the uh, 2 through 5, are all kind of guys that could be a three,
Yeah.
which helps boost them. Speaking of three, their three is Ober, who, much like Joe Ryan, had a breakout year in 2022. Then they got Louis Varland, who is the young guy of the staff. He's 26 years old. And then Chris Paddock rounds that out as a five. Uh, Paddock, he's had his share of ups and downs, but really seemed to come into it last year, found something, and kind of tapped back into what we saw in San Diego. So I think that shows a lot of promise for this rotation.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking at it right now. I had no idea that Bailey Over is 6'9".
Yeah, bro is a monster.
Holy cow, dude. That's wild. We have a pitcher on our college team that's 6'7", 6'8", and he is a unit when he's on the mound. Like, he is huge. It is scary to look at him. So I can only imagine at a professional level seeing a 6'9".
Yeah. But yeah, do you have anything else to add about the Twins?
Um, no, other than I'm very high on Pablo Lopez also. I think, is he on my fantasy team? I'm gonna look really quick. I think he might be.
Check it.
I'm pretty sure he put up a pretty big number for me. Um, no, he isn't. I was thinking of Logan Gilbert for Seattle.
Yes, we will talk about him later.
Yep.
All
But
right.
yeah, no, I don't have much else to add. I don't know a lot about the Twins, to be totally honest with you. But their rotation is one ace and four really, really, really solid guys. So I definitely think they're worth mentioning.
Yes. So, speaking of
It's gonna
Logan Gilbert, let's talk about the Mariners, who at this point I don't think anyone can really say anything other than they have the best rotation. Personally, I don't see an argument anywhere, but I'm sure
yeah,
someone out there has one.
anyone argue either. Castillo, Kirby, Gilbert, Miller, Hancock. Um, I mean, maybe Emerson Hancock's not the greatest five in the world. I don't know, but I mean,
Yeah,
those front
he's
three
young.
they're the real deal.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're going to be getting Brian Wu back before the All Star break, who he really broke out for them last year as well. But you talk about Castillo, Kirby, Gilbert. They're arguably, outside of maybe the Dodgers front three, the most terrifying front three that you can go up against.
Yeah, they are really good. And like I said, Logan Gilbert is on my fantasy team, and he is putting up numbers. So
Yeah,
shout out to
yeah.
him.
Castillo's their big strikeout guy. Kirby's their big command guy, and then Gilbert's kind of a good mix of both of them. And all three of those guys eat innings. Bryce Miller's got terrifying stuff. His breaking balls make you flinch.
Yeah,
I really don't have much on Hancock just because he's so young and he's kind of just stepping in right now for Wu.
yeah,
But yeah, this is a rotation you do not want your team to face in the playoffs because it's it's lights out.
yeah. And we're not going to talk about it now, but their back end of their relievers are no worse. Like, this pitching staff is just nuts for Seattle.
Yeah. So this will bring us into our number two, uh, our Philadelphia Phillies, who obviously we talked about big threes. They've got kind of their own big three with Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, and Ranger Suarez. Then we got Chris Sanchez. And do you think that they're going to keep Spencer Turnbull in that rotation, or do you think that they're going to try and bring Taiwan back?
I would say that we keep Turnbull in there unless he falls apart, because Taiwan Walker looked horrible.
Yeah, and that's my concern. I just don't know if they're gonna eat that big contract they gave him, but it'll be
I,
interesting to see. Maybe they go into a 6-man rotation with it.
maybe I would not care if he never pitches another inning for the Phillies. To be totally honest with you, he
Yeah.
can't even like hit 90 miles an hour right now, and it just looks really bad. I would prefer to just not even see him come out. Actually, I wouldn't mind seeing. I mean, this is more or less a joke, but Mr. Pinto or Pinto just throw a few starting innings if we have to throw pen games. I mean, what
Oh
do we go
yeah,
4 or 5 the other game?
4 innings after getting there in the 4th inning.
Yep, 4 innings and 7 strikeouts. Yeah, sure, you can start a game and throw 4 innings with 7 strikeouts as much as you want. Fine by me.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Wheeler and Nola, both of these guys got paid in the off season a lot of money. We said we weren't going to get into how the season has started so far because these are preseason rankings, but overall, I do feel really good about this rotation. I think they can go toe to toe with just about anyone. You've got uh, Nolan Wheeler, who consistently give you 6, 7 inning starts. Ranger has some ability, but more so you see him go into the 5th inning and not really come back out for the 6th unless he's really feeling it. And Chris Sanchez has a lot of swing and miss. Off his latest start, I saw he was on Pitching Ninja quite a bit, slicing and dicing.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, the back end of our rotation is what makes me like him even more. And with how Turnbull, if he keeps doing that, and I'm not going to say he's going to go out there and do that every game, but if he keeps pitching at a high level like that, then I think that even if Aaron Nola doesn't have a great season, we're going to be fine. And I know we're not going to talk about it, but he is the only guy on that starting rotation that blew up, like that just didn't do good.
Yeah.
So shout out to the Phillies starting rotation.
All right, let's jump into our number 3, who we talked about before with the big 3, the Los Angeles Dodgers. They are going to be scary next year once Shohei can pitch, but he's not pitching this year, so he's a non-factor in this ranking. Picked up 2 big guys, Tyler Glasnow and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who both Chris and I have picked to win Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, first to help our case, did it?
Exactly. And then are also in that starting rotation. You got Bobby Miller, Gavin Stone, and James Paxton is slated right now. But both Walker Buehler and Clayton Kershaw are going to come back for them later in the season. I think Buehler's going to take that spot from Paxton to start, and then we might see Gavin Stone either go into a 6th man or he might be used elsewhere in the bullpen once Kershaw gets back. But this rotation's also a very scary one. You got another big guy in Tyler Glasnow, who I believe he's 6'8".
Yeah, he is 6'8", 225.
Yeah, he's got wicked stuff. He's just got to put together a full healthy season.
Yep.
And then Yamamoto, his stuff is terrifying. Didn't have the greatest first start, but came back, bounced back for a second start. Really looked like that ace level, $300 million pitcher that they paid him to be. And Bobby Miller.
Buehler has already started his minor league rehab assignment, so I think he will be back pretty soon.
Yeah, I think he's slated to come back sometime during May.
Yeah, that's what I read.
Which, if he can pitch like he did before he got his Tommy John, that could really help propel this, rotation to possibly take a number 1 spot. But, obviously got to see all that come to happen first.
First.
All right, anything else to add before we go on to number 4?
That is all I have.
All right. And we get to the Arizona Diamondbacks. I do really like this rotation a lot. You got Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly on the front, and then they picked up. Eduardo Rodriguez, who pitched very well in Detroit last year. They've also got Tommy Henry. They've got Brennan Pfaadt and Ryan Nelson. All three of those guys, were a big part of their playoff run. So I think, all around consistency wise, I think this is a rotation that, really can stack up with anyone. They might not give you the most dominant starts, but they're going to give you innings. And at the end of the day, if you're getting innings out of your pitchers, that's always, something that you look for.
Yeah, and they've got Rick Montgomery listed too at being in the minors, but
oh yes, forgot about that.
He will be up. So
yeah, so much like the Dodgers, this rotation has a lot of room to rise on this list, but for right now they're at number 4. As I mentioned, not quite as dominant as some of the other rotations, but 100% will get the job done.
Yeah, they're a big 1-2 punch because that Gallen Merrill Kelly combo is pretty nasty.
Yeah.
I didn't realize Merrill Kelly was that old.
Yeah, he's an old guy, 35.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I got.
All right, let's jump into number 5, the Cleveland Guardians, who, once again, we're not talking about this from an in-season standpoint, but Shane Bieber looks like he is him so far this season.
That's my fantasy team.
Yeah, he had some concerns with injuries and velo the last couple of years, and this year he just put all of that to bed.
Yep, him and Logan Allen's also on my fantasy team. They put up numbers in their first couple of starts for me.
Yeah.
Logan Allen a little slower start. I think they put up 6 in his first one, but his second one he put up like 20 or something.
Yeah, Logan Allen, young guy. Is this his first year in the bigs?
I think he pitched last year, but like not a full season.
Gotcha. But yeah, Logan Allen in that rotation, he's slated in as their 2, followed by Tanner Bybee, who last year was second in Rookie of the Year. Had him on my fantasy team last year. Helped put up a lot of points. Then we got Carlos Carrasco, who is by far their oldest pitcher. He's 37. Next closest in age is Bieber, who will be 29 soon. Carrasco's kind of the misfit in this rotation. He's overcome a lot in his career, and Cleveland was his first home, so I think it's kind of more of a ride off into the sunset for him. But hopefully he can contribute a good amount. And then Tristan McKenzie is going to be their 5 starter. Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about this rotation other than they're pretty darn consistent.
Yeah. I would also like to know, Tristan McKenzie is 6'5", 165 pounds. He is scrawny.
Yeah, he is like a slightly miniature Kevin Durant.
Yeah, that's not a bad comparison.
All right, anything else before we move along?
I think that is all.
All right, let's get into our bullpens. Much like how we rank starting pitching, we went through bullpens as a whole. More so, one elite bullpen pitcher can kind of help carry your team more than one elite starting pitcher, but more so we tried to focus on the unit as a whole. First up, the Houston Astros.
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, they got Hader now. They already had a pretty solid pen. They're just a kind of
There's not a whole lot to say other than this is probably the most dominant 1, 2, 3 in the bullpen, at least I've ever seen, with Ryan Presley, Josh Hader, and Brian Abreu. All of them have wicked stuff, and it's just a nightmare. Additionally, in their bullpen, they have Rafael Montero, who he's no slouch either. He's pretty nasty. Seth Martinez, Parker Mushinski, Taylor Scott, Dylan Coleman, and Brandon Bilak. Yeah, I don't know too much about any of the aforementioned guys, but just from that 4 alone that I started with, you don't really need to see anyone else.
Yeah.
Plus, their starters do tend to go deep into games, really, so you're not seeing a lot of those lower end arms anyway.
Yeah, you're really probably going to see 3 relief pitchers at max from the Astros most games.
And that's all you need to see, because that's why they're number 1. Number 2, we've got the Seattle Mariners, who, if we were doing this a little bit later in the offseason, would have taken a bit of a hit. Matt Brash isn't looking like he's going to be able to put up a whole lot of innings this year, which really stinks for them. I know we were talking about Matt Brash before.
Oh, I love that slider. But yeah, that hurt my heart.
They still do have Andres Munoz and Ryan Stanek. Both of those throw pretty hard from the right side and have very good breaking pitches. Also have Gabe Spire, Trent Thornton, Taylor Saucedo, Colin Snyder, Cody Bolton, and Austin Voth. All of those guys solid arms, just not your shining bullpen stars. They also have Gregory Santos, who they traded for with the White Sox, but he is also on the injured list. I'm not quite sure when he's going to come back. So, with some of the guys that they have on the injured list, it would push him back. But, when this bullpen's healthy, it is terrifying.
Yeah, it is. And I saw a report 3 days ago. Brash is throwing pens again.
Okay.
So if he's okay, they said the MRI looked good. So as long as he is okay, then that'd be awesome. If it's just some sort of like soreness or strain or something like that, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man, he's so fun to watch. But that's all I got for the Mariners.
All right. Then let's jump into the Atlanta Braves. As we compiled this ranking, Ronaldo Lopez, who we had mentioned in the rotation, was slated for a bullpen role, so we factored that in, which I did mention that he'll probably go back to that role. But as of now, it would jump them down a little bit. But Raisel Iglesias, AJ Minter, Joe Jimenez, Pierce Johnson, Tyler Matzik, Aaron Bummer, Dylan Lee, Jesse Chavez. You've got Iglesias, Minter, and Matzik, who are some of the best high leverage relievers that I've watched pitch, which is unfortunate because I watch these guys pitch against the Phillies quite a bit. Jesse Chavez, who just always finds his way back with the Braves. And just these other guys in their rotation, they're all pretty lights out.
Yeah, I think a Matt Brashless Mariners pen might be worse than the Braves.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. But we've seen these guys quite a bit. I mean, we have, in our own experience, seen the Phils get some big hits off of these guys, but
it is interesting. In the playoffs, we do most of our damage off their starting pitchers, who are supposed to be better.
Yeah, but it is still a great bullpen.
Yep.
Speaking of great bullpens, this is like the reliever factory in the Tampa Bay Rays, who we have ranked at number 4. And for the Rays, they've got Peter Fairbanks, Jason Adam, Colin Poche, Bill Maton, Sean Armstrong, Garrett Clevenger, Chris Davinsky, and Jacob Wagspack.
Is Bill Maton Nick Maton's brother?
Yes.
Thought so.
Yes, he was with the Astros.
Shout out Wolfie.
Miss him, man. But yeah, Pete Fairbanks and Jason Adam are kind of their big 1-2 out of the pen. Sean Armstrong and Garrett Clevenger will also give you a real solid outing as well. And Maton's been with the Astros for so long, so he carries a lot of that Astros pedigree with him. And I think, if it rubs off on these other guys in that bullpen, they'll definitely see opportunity to move up the rankings.
Yeah, I would agree. They're definitely a little bit more of a question to me than definitive, just because outside of Fairbanks and Adam, I don't know I don't know what kind of season the other guys are going to have, just either from lack of me not watching them too much or just from their names not popping out of the page for me. But they're definitely still solid.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, the Rays are kind of just an absolute pitching factory. So I'm more so scared that I haven't heard of some of these guys because that means that the Rays found something they like and they're just going to turn them into absolute monsters.
They got to start finding that in their starting pitchers.
They can't keep their starters healthy.
Yeah, I'm looking at their injury list right now. It's pretty terrible. They have 5 starting pitchers on the IL.
Yeah, they're dipping back to starting pitching. Their IL rotation of Shane Baz, Taj Bradley, Shane McClanahan, Drew Rasmussen, and Jeffrey Springs. That could put them at like the number 3 spot if we went back and revisited the starting rotation just off of their injured list alone.
Yeah.
But the Rays got bitten quite bad by the injury bug.
Yeah, and I think that is. I don't think I gave us a 5. I think I went right to the honorable mentions.
Okay. Yep. Look at that. You know it so well.
Yeah, it's because of it.
Yes.
I know that we were ranked the number 1 pen and all this other crap. Under no circumstance will I ever say the Phillies bullpen is top anything. I always assume the worst.
Yeah, and I mean we kind of saw it with how some of these first couple games went, but hopefully that'll change once Kerkering comes back. And
yeah, and I mean, look, we had when we made that World Series run, Sir Anthony Dominguez was the most dominant relief pitcher in baseball for like 3 months, and then last year he just sucked, and it's like it's these horrible inconsistencies. I mean, Connor Brogdon, what on God's green earth are we doing with him? Thank God he's gone now. We'll get into that later. Jose Alvarado will walk the bases loaded and then have to get out of it every single time he comes up to pitch. Like, I do not like the concept of putting us in the top 5. We can be when all of our pitchers pitch to potential. Absolutely, we're top 5. That doesn't happen all that often.
Yeah, with this bullpen, it definitely is boom or bust. When these guys are firing on all cylinders, they look just utterly dominant. But when it's bad, it's bad.
Yep. Like when Alvarado throws strikes, he's probably the best reliever in baseball.
Yeah.
He doesn't do that all that often.
Yeah, so we'll just run through the rotation as of right now. Jose Alvarado, Jeff Hoffman, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Gregory Soto, Matt Strahm, Junior Marte, Ricardo Pinto, and Nick Nelson.
Shout out Ricardo Pinto. We're going to talk about him in our Philly Friday podcast, so check that out.
Absolutely. And we go back to the Twins. Let me pull up their bullpen. Yes, so I think the aspect of having some real lights out guys can boost your ranking applies to them. Johan Duran, who is currently injured, but when he's on the mound, he is arguably the best relief pitcher in baseball with that wicked splinker, and he throws 104. They also have Griffin Jacks and Brock Stewart, who were dominant in the playoffs last year. Really stepped up and kind of broke out in a big spot for them, which I thought was huge. Then they also have Jorge. I'm not even going to pronounce that. Steven Okert, Jay Jackson.
Ala, I think.
Alaka.
Yeah.
Cody Funderburk. That's a fun name.
That's a name. That's almost Kirby Snead level. And he has the.
And then they got Daniel Duarte and Cole Sands. Not too much else to mention. Like I said, they're really boosted by their frontline guys.
Yeah.
And then we got the Orioles.
That's insane.
The Baltimore Orioles. who got their first taste of the Craig Kimbrell experience the other night. But much like with the Phillies bullpen, when Craig's on, he's on.
Yeah.
Really wish that we'd be getting a full season or any part of a season from Felix Bautista, because he's another one that when he's on the mound, he is so hard to hit. But they also have Sinel Perez on the IL, who is I don't know how much they'll get out of him this year. Strained oblique.
That's not too bad.
Yeah. But they got Craig Kimbrell, Yunier Cano, Danny Collum, Dylan Tate, Mike Bachman, Jacob Webb, Keegan Aiken, and Jonathan Healsey. Yeah, these guys are all just pretty nails once they come out of the pen. It's more so of a consistency thing. They seem to get streaky at different times, which is really good. They don't kind of just all fall off at the same time. But
yeah,
you gotta take those ebbs and flows with what you can and hope that they stay together.
Yeah, and I don't have any other ones in the honorable mention category, but I do want to bring up the Cincinnati Reds just because of Diaz.
Yeah.
He is one of, if not the most dominant closer in baseball from last year. He was, I think, 38 for 40 in save attempts.
Yeah, Diaz is really good, and I also like Lucas Sims coming out of the bullpen for them too.
Yeah, he's a good arm.
All right, let's move on to some of our regular season notes. So some of the things that we've gotten so far is how important is early season. Chris, you wanna start out with this one?
Yeah, and so we're Phillies fans, and so early season to us means nothing. But it is kind of exciting for teams that might not normally have a chance at things because it gets their fans a little excited. So we're going to talk about them in a little bit, but like the Pirates. Pirates started red hot. Admittedly, they didn't play very good teams, but they started red hot. And so for Pirates fans who probably haven't seen their team have a winning record for very many days, that's kind of exciting. Importantness, I think it's important more for pitching than it is for hitting, because you sort of start to see, who's like Nola. Nola needed to get his feet under him to start this season because there's already a lot of doubt. There's already a lot of that. And he just had an absolute disaster. And I think that's a big confidence killer. I do think he's a professional. I don't think that that's going to get in his head too much. But I mean, to come out and get shelled the way he got shelled, that's going to hurt. But as far as early season involving team-wise, it doesn't mean a whole lot, right? I mean, teams heat up and you want to get hot at the right time, and early season is not the right time to get hot.
Yeah, I somewhat agree. I think early season kind of just shows how your team is going to come out of the gate and really define if you're going to have a fighting chance in the season. I know obviously you still have to play a full season, but I think like the start that the Mets had of they just finally got their first win yesterday, but I think it's very telling of they're not going to be as competitive maybe as they had hoped. But there are some other outliers, like the Astros started 0-4 and then immediately followed it up with a no-hitter. Yep. So I think that there are cases to be made from either side.
Yep. And as far as what teams are starting hot, which is the next question, I have that covered in the next couple of slides. So we'll get to that. And we're going to skip to the standout performer part. And I didn't make a slide for this because I didn't really know. We'd probably talk about a bunch of different people. But is there anyone in your mind that you think really has just started off this season outstanding?
Yeah, I think it would be really hard not to talk about Mookie Betts, who quite literally is leading the MLB in every offensive stat right now.
Yeah.
Also want to shout out Mike Trout, who hit first home run of the season off of Corbin Burns, who is somewhat of a favorite to win a Cy Young this year. Obviously a very established pitcher, and then he had that monster shot against the Marlins. I think it was 473. So
yeah, professional terms, piss missile.
Yes. So I think that's a really promising start from him.
Yeah, and the crazy part about that home run that he hit against the Marlins was it wasn't even a strike. It was like 3 inches out of the zone low.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
just unloaded a 9-iron swing on it.
Yeah. But yeah, you stole mine. Mookie Betts was 100% gonna be mine. I did. I mean, we could talk about what's his name? We were just talking about him, starting pitcher.
Oh, Shane Bieber.
Yeah, Shane Bieber and Logan Gilbert both started off pretty hot. Oh, that's who it is. Shota Imanaga. I wanted to talk
Oh, yes.
for the
Yes,
Cubs.
he had a
Awesome
great first start.
I picked him off waivers for our fantasy league. Dropped a 30 burger in his first start. Shout out him. That's awesome.
Yeah, he was flirting with a no-hitter through 6 innings. I think his final line was 6 innings, 2 hits. I believe he had 9 strikeouts.
Yep, you have it right on the money.
Yeah, so definitely
no walks.
Definitely a great first start from him.
Yeah, that was awesome. But that's about all I have standout performance-wise. Obviously, Harper's game was awesome, but I wouldn't say he's a standout performer thus far.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on. So yeah, Pirates started out hot, as we mentioned, 5-0.
They didn't they? They just dropped one of the 5-1.
Yes. Connor Joe, Brian Hayes, Brian Reynolds all have 3, 4, 5 slash line so far. Love to see that. And Michael Taylor with the 4.45.
Yep.
Pretty good from a veteran out there. And their bullpen, as you mentioned in the presentation, has been outstanding. I do really like some of these back end bullpen guys that they have with Bednar and Chapman and yes, just yep. they've got dudes back there, and I think
awesome. I think Pirates.
Yeah, I think that they have potential to sneakily be a lot better than people expected. We've seen how good this lineup has produced so far this year. Now, granted, like you said, they haven't played the best of teams, but confidence is key, and if they feel like they've got it, it's going to continue to roll.
Yeah, and supposedly the best player on the team isn't even there.
Yeah.
Also. So, yeah, and you know who else isn't really performing? Not I shouldn't say isn't performing, but O'Neal Cruz isn't even in like their top 6 for batting right now.
Yeah, he did have a great first series against the Marlins. Then kind of slowed down coming into the second series, but I think that he is definitely someone to keep an eye on because when he's clicking, it's special.
Yeah, and I'd love to see Pirates Stadium full again because that's just such an awesome stadium to go to, and I love rooting for the Pirates. It's just I don't know. The Poop Game is my favorite game of the year.
Yes.
Play the Phillies. And it says P00P on the scoreboard. Love the Pirates. Favorite ballpark visually that I've ever been to.
Speaking of the scoreboard features, did you see the other night? I think it was last night. The C3PO from the Phillies and Reds.
That was awesome.
That was great.
Yeah. So those are fun. I always like those little scoreboard things where it spells something out or says something. It's like
yeah.
But yeah, that's all I got for the Pirates. Shout out to them.
All right. So here we have our weekly standings in the National League. We got the Braves rounding out the NL East, followed by the Phillies, the Nationals, the Mets, and then the Marlins. Pirates on top of the Central right now with the Brewers in second, followed by the Cubs, the Reds, and then the Cardinals. And then heading out to the West, the Dodgers are on top, followed by the Diamondbacks, then the Padres, the Giants, and the Rockies.
Yeah, dare I say it, the NL Central looks good this year.
Yeah, they do look really competitive. I've really liked what I've seen out of them so far, and I think they kind of heard the slander that a lot of people have been giving, and I think they're just saying, "Hey guys, we're here."
Yeah, I mean I've been one of them to slander them. The Central's never go far in playoffs, never do any of that. They're looking good. So
yeah, I agree. Let's jump over to the American League. In the East, we've got the Yankees on top, followed by the Red Sox. Kind of surprised by that one. They've had a really good start.
Yeah, the Sox.
And the Orioles, followed by the Blue Jays and the Rays. On top in the AL Central, we've got the Tigers, followed by the Guardians, the Twins, the Royals, and the White Sox. And then out west, to nobody's surprise, the Angels are in the lead, followed by the Rangers, the Mariners, the Astros, and the Athletics.
As everyone expected, the Angels are number 1 in the AL West. Angels World Series champs 2024. You heard it here first. But the AL East is an absolute juggernaut of a division this season, and we're talking about who's hot and who's not. The Yankees, the Red Sox, the Orioles are all hot. It's just they happen to be in the same division.
Yeah.
The Tigers, you picked the Tigers. You like the Tigers going into this?
I did. I did still predict the Twins on top, but I do like the Tigers, and I've liked what they've shown so far.
Yeah. Or did I pick the Tigers, or did you? Maybe. There's no.
I don't. We have to go back and listen.
We'll have to go back. But I think it was you. I think you were really high on the Tigers, and I was really low on them.
Gotcha. So. All right, and let's move along. As we mentioned, we are going to start Philly Friday this week. We are recording at just about 10 o'clock on April 4th, a Thursday. And after this one, we are going to record Philly Friday. So,
if there's Phillies fan, check it out. Or if you just want to get into the Phillies stuff, check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're listening to these in order of when they're released, jump back or hop on over, listen to Philly Friday. Going to have some good discussions there. And before we close out, kind of news that hit earlier today that didn't really get to talk about with Chris beforehand, but the Oakland A's released an official statement today that for 2025 through 2027, they will be playing in Sacramento until they're ready to make their move to Las Vegas, which, if you're an A's fan, I feel really bad for you.
Shout out Luke Verda.
But if anyone has the chance, listen to the Baseball is Dead podcast. Dallas Braden, who was a pitcher for the A's and came up through the A's system and is local to that area, he has a lot to say about this, and he's also the A's broadcaster now. So if you want the info on someone who's really close to that situation, definitely check that out.
Yep. A's are a team with a lot of cool history, and it does suck to see them leave, but it also sucks to see them do what they're doing. So, at the end of the day, is what it is.
Yeah. All right, and that does it for this Can of Corn podcast. If you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your neighbor, share with a random guy on the street. Love to get as many viewers and eyeballs on this as we can so we can continue to grow and keep producing good content for you guys. As always, if you're not following the socials, check those out so you can stay up to date on when new episodes are coming out, as well as being aware of when questions are being put out, and we'll answer yours here on the show.
Yippers, and if you ask questions specifically regarding the Phillies and that thing I put out today, they will be in the Philly Friday podcast as opposed to this. We'll get to those in that. But yeah, we always appreciate it. Stay engaged, stay active. We appreciate that, and go Phils.
Yeah. Thank you guys.